Good afternoon. This is a hearing of the Chatham Conservation Commission being held on June 25th, 2025, in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Chatham Wetlands Protection Bylaw and Regulations. My name is Karen Latin, and I serve as the chair. Today's hearing is being broadcast live on Xfinity Channel 1072 and is being recorded for the on-demand archives available on the town's website. It is being conducted in person, by phone, and by video conference. The agenda, instructions on how to attend, and copies of documents for review are posted on the town's website. To all participants, whether you're attending by phone or online, please remain muted unless you've been recognized by the chair. When recognized, please identify yourself for the record. If you are attending by phone, you can mute and unmute by using *6. If you are online and you are not a commissioner, please keep your camera turned off unless you've been recognized. Indicate that you wish to speak by using the raised hand feature. So that we have a record of a quorum, I will now ask each commissioner to indicate their presence. Vice Chair Elise Gordon.
Present.
Janet Williams.
Present.
Cheryl Meservey is not here. Eric Hilbert.
Present.
Bob Delvecchio.
Present.
Paul Johnson.
Present.
And I am here, so we have a quorum. So, is there anyone who has any announcements, comments, or future agenda items for anything other than the properties on the agenda today? I'm not seeing that anybody does. I'm not seeing any raised hands, so we will continue. Before we begin the agenda, Paul, are there any announcements for any requests for continuances today?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. There are 3 continuances. The first one is 27 Strong Island Road. The applicants requested a continuance to July 9th, 2025. That was on for an order. 141 Abscamy Run is going to be continued at the applicant's request to August 27th. And 20 L Street will be continued to July 23rd.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
At this point, Paul Whiteman, Chatham's conservation agent, will lead us through the agenda.
All right, I'll just read this one again. First on the agenda is a requested order of conditions, 27 Strong Island Road, William C. Benjamin, map 12M, parcel 16-B19, DEP number SE10 3726, replacement of existing patios and walkways with dry-laid ashlar bluestone and dry-laid brick, reconfigure patio steps and landscape improvements. It was continued from March 26, 2025, and the applicants requested a continuance to July 9th, 2025.
All right, I guess we can have a motion, please.
I move that we continue 27 Strong Island Road to July 9th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, Bob?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay, the next.
Next on the agenda, Madam Chair, is a request for an order of conditions. The address is 734 Fox Hill Road, Willis Barton Row, map 12M, parcel W1, DEP number SE10 3731, site redevelopment, and it was continued from May 14th, 2024 and June 11th, 2025. The applicant's withdrawn the application because of the ZBA issue, but I believe we need to continue this to a date certain. Is there anyone here representing this applicant?
It's from Ty and Bond, so is there anyone? Otherwise, we will pick a date, and I would think that we probably want to continue it pretty much to September at this point, because they have to reapply, figure things out and reapply with ZBA. So, since I am not seeing that anybody's on, let's continue it to September 10th, which is our first September.
How far out is ZBA at this point?
I think probably September.
Okay.
But since nobody's on, let's do it to, I mean, if they have something ready at that point to present to us, they can, and, have the ZBA scheduled. So we'll be able to move forward with, at least hearing something if they've got it. I think September 10th will I think, be enough.
I move we continue 734 Fox Hill Road to September 10th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, Paul,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Bob.
Aye.
And I say aye. So next, please.
Next on the agenda is a submitted field change request. The address is 859 Main Street. The owner is 859 Main Street, Chatham LLC. Map 13E, Parcel 4, DEP number SE 103656. Redevelopment of an existing commercial lot. The field change request is to relocate the refuse containment exclosure to a location within 100-foot buffer zone.
Thank you. Is there anyone here for this? Didn't I see,
Everybody's gone to the beach, I guess.
but didn't I see David here earlier?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
Maybe move it to the bottom?
he walked in at one point.
Yeah, he did. I was talking with him, so
Yeah,
just table it.
I think we'll have to because nobody's here. So let's table it to the end of the meeting. If we could have a motion to.
I
Oh,
move,
there's Dave.
oh, good. Yay.
We're on 859. Good luck with that.
I can start. David Clark, Clark Engineering on behalf of 859. So the project's 99.9% done. The refuse contractor has a extremely difficult time, or actually refuses to service the dumpster in the enclosure that was provided behind the building. So right now, it's sitting in the parking lot. So we found a spot where we can take up some pavement, add some more pavement. It's right on the edge of the 100. It's still inside the fence. But we're asking this as a field change. I'm going to add some more plants to the planting bed that's around it. And it's already been to planning board, and it's already been to HBDC. This is the last stop.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions, comments on this?
You stand there and look, and it's the only place it can go. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
So you say that it increases the coverage in the outer aura by 55 square feet. Is that just that piece that?
That's just that piece, and to offset that, we're taking up some pavement. And
What-
although it increases it by 50, it's 55 square feet over the as-built conditions.
Okay.
With what was permitted by all the boards, including the commission, was a little bit more site coverage within that area. So it's slightly less than 50 square feet altogether.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, is that the numbers weren't adding up right.
Yeah, they weren't.
So when you take up the pavement, what are you putting?
They're gonna just put a pervious pavers in there,
Okay,
so.
okay. So that makes more sense. Okay, thank you.
anybody else? I think this is pretty straightforward.
I got a question,
Go
Karen.
ahead.
The plants that are going to be planted, natives or?
Yep, all the
Winterberry
same
and
species that have been planted in that corner.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody have anything else? All right, I think we can have a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the field change request for 859 Main Street.
Second.
Okay, Bob,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
And I say aye.
Thank
So
you.
you're all set. Thank you. Okay, next one, Paul, please.
Next on the agenda is a field change request. The address is 97 Tilapy Run. The owner TR Nominee Trust, map 14A3, parcel 2-B, DEP number SE 103690. The project is shoreline protection and restoration, and the field change request is to address design changes.
Okay,
Dan
Hi-
Kermick with
hi,
County
Dan.
Volunteer
go ahead.
representing. Yep, and can I just do I have a very brief presentation. So I'll just request a screen share.
Okay. You should be able to.
I,
Oh, okay.
I can bring it up if you can't.
Well,
How do I? Share screen.
Usually, we
go.
don't have to approve
There
it.
we go. Oh,
There.
we're good. We're good.
Okay.
There we go. Switch. Okay. Oh. Can you share a different screen? It's not going to share that one.
I thought you were sharing it.
I was, but it was the wrong screen. I will.
Oh, okay.
It's more challenging than it needs to be. All right, that's up. There we go. All right. There we go. Can everyone see that now?
Yes.
Can you see that now?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So here for 97 Tilby Run, we are requesting a field change for the project for construction of a stone paver patio in lieu of a stone paver walking path on the site. So just quick project status update. So we have the order of conditions that was originally issued back in September of last year, not this year. Apologies for that. This project's part of the larger shoreline protection project going on at 59, 75, and 97. Project, the portion of the project related to the revetment is substantially complete at this point, and the upland work is ongoing. There's been some planting done. Like I said, this patio's been done, but the planting is ongoing at this point. So summary of field change. So the original plan had 349 square feet of salvaged stepping stones. And we have some graphics coming up to go with this, but the stepping stones went from the pool area and then followed near the shoreline along to the southern border of the site, where when this project started, when the emergency was originally issued, there was still a beach over there. The hope was to have access to that beach area via this walking path. Since that time, the beach is more or less gone. There's not really any value in having the path going in that direction. So the stepping stone pathway was swapped for a stone. It's really the same material was used just to construct a patio and a small walking path of equivalent area. The patio is just it's between the pool area and the crest of the revetment. We relocated a few plantings in order to make room for the patio, but really the plantings were moved from the spot where they were originally to where the walking path was. And no change in planting species or quantities, all that remains unchanged from the approved plan. So, like I said, the patio is equivalent in area to what was approved for the walking path. It's just in patio form instead of pathway form. There's no increase in resource area impacts, and no changes to any of the conditions are required for this change. And just sharing the originally approved planting plan here, so you can see this is the pool area here. There was a few granite landscaping steps, and then a paver pathway that came all the way to the southern end of the site. And in the revised plan, you can see we have a short pathway here, and then we have a patio in this area, and then all of this area where the pathway was will be planted. You can see the tables here, same quantities and same species of plantings that were in the originally approved plan. And then pictures of what's out there. So this is a picture of the patio here with the the stone paver walkway, and then just the same view here. You can see some of the plantings have been installed to date. And that's it. So with that, I will open it up to discussion and questions from the commission.
Okay, thank you. Anybody wish to start or comment?
I think you want to start.
Can you tell me why you're coming to us after the work was done and not to get approval before you did this?
Sure. So we, unfortunately, with this job, the applicant at 97 does not own or have really control over the site access. The work at the neighboring property is rapidly finishing, and he was essentially, I don't want to say forced, but didn't really have a choice in agreeing to ending use of that access. And this work could not be done without that access. So it more or less was either do it now or never do it. Because there's no way to get heavy equipment in there to move these.
To put
these
in a
pavers.
patio?
These are large, like these are pretty large pieces of granite. They weigh 200 to 300 pounds each. Moving these by hand would
Each
be
piece? And these
difficult.
are, you said they're the same materials used. These were already there and just, aren't they being reused, was what has always been said? Or are they brand new?
They are. It's the same material that was going to be used for a pathway, but instead was used for a patio. It's the same. They're granite. I call them pavers. They're slabs of granite, basically.
Okay.
So the
I-
answer is yes,
I,
the same materials.
Yes, same
Okay.
material.
But the order says that the stones that were existing on the site would be repurposed into the
Yes.
stepping stones. So are these the stones that existed before?
or are they
Look pretty
brand
new.
new? They look new. I'll tell you
They're-
that, but
They're new.
they're not
or on
repurposed
site.
from what existed on the property previously?
There was nothing on site previously for these.
Because that's what the
specific-
order said, that they were stones that were being repurposed. So, which means that they were on the property before, and that's what was submitted to us. And I will tell you, I still have an issue with the fact that this is after the fact. And, you know, I feel very strongly about that aspect of it. I'll just leave it there for now. Anybody else want to comment?
I agree.
Paul, okay.
I'll also comment that as something that's obvious, but it becomes even more obvious when you stand there and look at it, a patio is not the same as stepping stones, individual. Even though if you measure each one up and you measure the patio, technically the coverage is the same. When you put them all together and create this very large impervious surface right at the edge of the revetment, it's just not the same. It becomes a viewing patio, not stepping stones to be able to access the beach. So it's an amenity that the house did not have, frankly, in my view, doesn't need, and was not requested in advance. So
And
The
part of my thing is, yeah, I get that there's been more erosion, and that's why that beach disappeared, that they had the stepping stones going to. But they must have realized that that beach had eroded a while ago to come up with a new plan of what they wanted, yet, and a field change, you know, it's not like it was going to take months for a field change to come to us. So.
Right, but we literally didn't have months. Like, the owner is not allowed to use that access anymore. He has not been allowed to use it now for well over
I
a
get
month
that,
at
but,
this point.
so the erosion that didn't allow the patio happened that recently that you couldn't come to us? To say
I
it
don't-
can't be used, the stepping stones can't be used to get to the beach because the beach is gone?
This wasn't something that, this part of the project wasn't even looked at until the planting was started. This plan is over a year old at this point already.
Right.
A year in Tilapy Run, Pleasant Bay time is a significant difference, and I think
Oh,
we are
I-
all
I
aware
get
of
it.
that.
But I still, well, obviously, I still have an issue with the after the fact and doing it rather than we need this and having an opportunity and submitting it. And, I mean, it's obviously been done for a little while, and I still believe it could have been done before. Even if you had the stones, I don't know, put someplace, it's just, that's my feeling. So with that, anybody else have anything else to say?
I would say, were you going to go, Eric? You want to go first?
Yeah, I'm a little more sympathetic. I mean, I don't know, has there been any violations on this job other than this one?
Yes.
There has.
Yes.
So lessons aren't learned. I've been on big jobs. I can't even imagine this one. Sometimes, you know, you get in the heat of battle there and decisions are made, and like he stated, the access was going away, so you were able to bring a machine and move the stones around, and then it was decided to do this. What keeps in my mind, the same square footage was used anyway. I'd hate to see them go through the cost of removing it and moving it around. I don't even know how they're gonna do it, get a machine in there. They're gonna have to have a lot of guys to move them around, but I'd be inclined to, you know,
Okay,
let this one go.
thank you.
I would say that, as a commission, I believe that we've been very responsive to this particular property, to all our properties, but this one's been very challenging for both sides of the fence. I was disappointed and rather surprised when I saw the material come in with a patio. And I think that, to Eric's point, lessons weren't learned from doing things the right way previously. You can submit things to our agent and get a response the same day if it's something very, very critical. So this is in my opinion, this is a big change from what we were presented, and it's disappointing.
Anybody else? Then we need a motion.
I move that we approve the field change request for 97 Tilapy Run.
I second that. I'll agree with that.
Okay. Paul?
Nay.
Janet?
No,
Elise?
No.
Eric?
Yes,
Bob?
No.
And I'm a no. So it has been denied.
Okay.
He's shocked.
I understand.
So I guess, do we need to follow up with like a new order to remove it? Like, what's the next step with the commission then?
Paul, what would,
Can they file after?
now that I've created
Well-
the mess, what's the,
Well, you know, to the extent you can go back to the original plan,
yeah,
but I think what he's saying is that some of that land is gone, so that can't be done. As far as the patio goes, maybe the commission can articulate what it is you want with the mitigation and the restoration, so he can present something, you know, for your approval down the road, because at this point, you know, this stuff's already out there, so it's got.
Right.
Do you want it taken out, and then, you know, where do we go from there? Because some of the land is gone, so you can't.
right.
You can't do it.
so the concept of using the stones to create a access pathway, stepping stones to the beach, no longer applies, because it's an access
Right.
to nothing. So you know, you can leave the stones, the walking path stones, but they don't go anywhere. My objection, aside from the, you know, the timing of all of this and not asking permission ahead of time and want,
It's the patio.
is the patio. I mean, you look at that and you know, I mean, it's going to be furnished. It's going to be a used patio, an area that is just nothing like what was envisioned for this project, which came to us under an emergency authorization. And somehow at the end of it, you've got this big patio area. And it's a killer view from that patio, but, you know, that, I think where I come out is if that had been proposed originally, I still would have not wanted to approve it, because it's too close to the edge, it's too much use in that particular area. We know this area, I mean, you've got this larger revetment, you know, maybe that'll hold it, but maybe not. And so now you have even more hardscape that's at risk of going into the harbor, and that's just not something I would approve.
And I agree with Janet. I think stepping stones is one thing. The patios, I mean, yes, the timing was an issue for me, but that patio is more than what we had approved. Changing the location of stepping stones, okay, we understand, but making a patio was not what we had originally approved. And the fact that then you're coming to us afterwards and saying that you want a patio now, it's a very different animal than stepping stones.
I'm going to jump in here for a sec. This is Brian E. Angus, also with Ty and Bond. I think let us chat with the client and his OPM, and then we will follow up with Paul. And I think just to rephrase Dan's question, I think it would be, you know, if the intent is for the patio to remain, is this a request for an amended order of conditions? Because I believe that's the sort of administrative outcome of the commission denying a field change request.
Doesn't sound like it.
I think we have and I shouldn't speak for everybody, but I'll speak for myself. The patio is an issue. Amended, field change, whatever, the patio is an issue.
Yeah, no, I think we hear that loud and clear, and I think we're trying to figure out the steps, you know, we need to figure out what the owner wants to do in response to this decision, and then just saying we'll follow up to confirm the appropriate next steps with you guys.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking out loud a little bit here, because it's such an evolving site. Like, what was permitted doesn't work there anymore. What has been installed, the commission doesn't approve. I just don't know what the next, you know, what the next, I don't even know what to call it, solution, proposal will be there. So let us figure that out.
Yeah, I think you probably need to go back to, obviously, to the owner and see, and we'll look forward to hearing the next step.
Sorry, Dan, didn't mean to steal your mic, but.
It's all good. Thank you.
All right. So, Paul, I think we can move on to the next. Go ahead, Paul.
Do you want to continue this to a date certain to have them either
Well, I think with-
procedurally file an amendment or come up with a concept plan that you're comfortable with?
I
The
think,
other option is just to deny it.
I think we did deny
Just
it.
giving you the choice, yeah, okay.
And I think at this point, it's tabled, and let them figure out a different solution and come back.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I don't know how long that would take.
Paul's in our court.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
All right, next one.
Next on the agenda is a request for a determination of applicability, 187 Cockrell Cove Road. Susan Belia and Kelly Fresca, map 4C, parcel 28-12A, R-25-9. Project is upgrade a failed cesspool to a Title V subsurface disposal system and installation of 4 mitigation trees.
Good afternoon, David Clark, and Clark Engineering on behalf of the applicants. So I think they're the third generation owners of this property. Their grandparents built this back in the mid-50s. It's been served by the same cesspool since then. Truly one of the last summer cottages on Cockle Cove Road. So they got news last fall that when they had it pumped at the end of the season, that it was in tough shape, and they really should start making plans to replace it. So after thinking about it over the winter, they moved forward with the plan. Given the size of the lot, there's really zero options as to where to put this system. We went to the Board of Health the other day, and they granted the variances that you see on the plan to site it where it is. Basically, it is as far away from the top of the bank as possible. We're pretty sure that at least one tree, most likely 2 trees, will have to come out for the excavation for the tank and the leach field. So we show 4 replacement trees. Hopefully, the commission will understand that it might be not the exact location they go, but with the intent is to plant 4 trees somewhere down on that end of the property. The existing cesspool will be pumped and filled with sand, and that area dressed off and planted with native fescue to stabilize the area. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Anyone have questions, comments?
Well, I think it's either that or have a bounce house. I mean, what else are you gonna do, right? I mean,
I appreciate that you truly moved it as far as
Yes.
humanly possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was-
It's a very tough lot to work with, and happy to say goodbye to a cesspool.
Yeah. Anybody else? Bob?
Yeah, I got something. David, there's a large pine as well. You don't think that's gonna be affected at all?
No, and I really want to keep that one because of the size of it. If we have to move the septic tank, basically we'll have to notify the contractor that if it needs to be slid to the north of the septic tank, then they need to do that. It's just, the way I show it, it's a direct shot coming out of the foundation, but if they need to move it, that just means a couple more bends in the pipe. But, the idea is to only take out 2 trees.
Will they put like some fencing around that tree or
We can.
before
specify
construction
that.
starts?
We haven't made the final, the Board of Health wanted 2 adjustments to the plan, and that was basically the type of structures going on the ground, make sure that they're they can support a vehicle load. So we haven't filed that plan yet, but I can add a note to the plan saying to protect that large pine.
Thank you. Also, so it's just going to be temporary irrigation to water the lawn,
Yes.
and you're
It's
going
not
to.
much- That's a real Cape Cod lawn.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, sand.
And you're going to provide adequate spacing for those replacement trees?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I think we can have a motion to approve, please.
I move that we approve the request for determination of applicability for 186 Cockle Cove,
What?
Cockle Cove Road as a -3.
Yep.
second?
Okay. Paul?
Aye.
Janet? Elise?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And I say aye.
Thank you.
Okay, Paul, next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next on the agenda is a notice of intent, 141 Absegami Run, Amy and Anthony Tutrone. I apologize for my pronunciations. Map 12E, parcel 23-1 A20, DEP number SE10 3718. Project is dock and stair reconstruction. It was continued from February 12th, 2025 and March 5th, 2025, and the applicants requested a continuance to August 27th, 2025.
So I move that we continue 141 Absegami Run to August 27th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, Bob,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and I say aye. All right, next one, please.
Next is a submitted notice of intent. The address is 20 L Street, Karen Lascalco, map 10F, parcel R9, DEP number SE10 3730. Remove and replace pond access stairs. It was continued from May 7th, 2025, and the applicants requested a continuance to July 23rd, 2025.
I move that we continue 20 L Street to July 23rd, 2025.
Second.
Okay, Paul.
Aye.
Janet.
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Bob.
Aye.
And I say aye. So, thank you. Next, Paul.
Next on the agenda is a notice of intent, 237 and 263 Woodland Way. Owner is Woodland Way Nominee Trust, map 11K, parcels HC 48 and HC 49, DEP number SE10 3734. The project was for removal of 2 boathouses, construction of 1 new boathouse, and access stairs within a coastal bank.
Good afternoon, David Clark, Clark Engineering, and Steve from Wilkinson Ecological Design, on behalf of the Gitlin family. This is on the last piece of the puzzle for the Gitlins. If you've been out to the site or you've been on the commission long enough, you know that they're rebuilding the 2 houses, and those projects are almost nearly complete. And it's been on their minds what to do with the 2 boathouses on those properties. So after a few years of contemplation, they decided to completely eliminate all the waterfront structures on 237 and rebuild the 1 boathouse on 263. So that's what the plan is for. The boathouse, the deck, the stairs, and there's a little bit of a bulkhead protecting the bank there that will all come out. There's an old footpath. There are some sleepers there that we've located, but it hasn't been used in a long, long time. That'll all get restored. And then all that activity shifts over to 263. What we're showing there is an improved access down to the water. There are some at-grade steps, a footpath, and then traditional elevated stairway that gets you down to the water and the boathouse. So all those stairs will be replaced. Some of the at-grade steps, we felt that were a little bit too steep, and converting that to an elevated stairway. And then the last stretch up by the house will be shifted a little bit to the north, to the west, and converted to an elevated stairway. At the end of the day, there is an increase in site coverage on 263. Obviously, there's a decrease on 237 because of all the removal. We're providing restoration and a little bit of mitigation because there is a net increase of structure if you discount 100% that old footpath that's going to get restored. But if you include the footpath, between the 2 properties is a net reduction of a little over 500 square feet. So that's it in a nutshell. Everything's above the mean high water mark, so no Chapter 91's involved. I know Paul had called me and had concerns about the ACEC and the prohibition of new structures, but that's under the Chapter 91 program. We're above mean high water, so no Chapter 91 permitting is required. Still has to go to ZBA. It's scheduled for tomorrow. Usually you have a month or two to, but this one we cut it close. So if there's any questions on the engineer plan, I'd be happy to answer them. And Steve's here to talk about how they're gonna go about restoring the disturbed areas.
Yeah, thank you. Stephen Lee with Wilkinson Ecological Design, representing the applicant. And just quite simply, we will just be vegetating the areas where structure is being removed, providing a native maritime planting that has performed well in shade-tolerant sites like this. I will just say for the 35 native shrubs that we're planning on planting, we will be targeting the 6 feet on center. They just weren't shown on this plan, just with the targeted narrow aspects of the project areas. We would just like our team to kind of field locate the best plant selections on the embankment once the areas are cleared. And beyond that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Anybody want to start? Eric, go ahead.
So the boathouse that's getting removed, did you count the debris on the left face, looking at the boathouse from the water, that debris that's piled up on the left, it's also getting removed? Looks like old pilings of something.
Yes, yeah, I think 237 had a dock at one time.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
it does have a Chapter 91 permit, but obviously it hasn't been used in 2 years, so all local permits
Wow, bummer.
are gone. And there's no permitting path available now with a prohibition of, because everybody would treat this as a new dock. So, yeah, all that stuff can come out.
I'm looking at the mitigation involved. I stood on the observation deck there. I mean, I saw scattered mitigation already provided here and there down the banking, with irrigation heads on 3-4 foot stakes. I couldn't believe it. But I guess you had to water them. To me, it's not that important for those few steps to take out there. I mean, you can just leave them in there and just let the stuff grow around them. I'm looking at this project, to have an above-ground stairway, I always think it's great. I used to didn't think that way before, but now that I've seen it happen, it's better to be above ground and let vegetation just naturally grow under them. It seems to work better than the old-fashioned steps, in the ground like they did in the old days. Now, as far as the shed goes, I mean, obviously, it was probably from the 60s and 70s. So it's whether or not it's permitted, it's there, so someone permitted it. Back in them days, government was very small, so, mostly it was permits were on houses. I grew up and people were building horse barns and tractor barns, and everybody had a shed. I mean, we had a shed. Sometimes I come home late for curfew, and my father told me to please use the accommodations that the shed provides for the night and come in for breakfast. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with the shed. Now, what I do find a problem is that you're in the NDZ and you got an increase of about 225 square feet. I'm one of them old-fashioned ones that believe that mitigation for impervious should be impervious, and I'm looking at a sacrificial lamb on that. It might be painful, but there's a sacrificial lamb on that banking that will be about 225 square feet that I think is a better mitigation, and that's that observation deck should be removed. If you move the observation deck, you're even on square footage in the NDZ, and it's a fair deal. So I'll pass with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead, Janet.
All right. So when this came to us before for the initial redevelopment of the house, and by the way, we did have a round and around and around about that deck, but we ended up letting it stay there. The structure on 267 and all of those plans was labeled a shed. And somehow now it's been relabeled and transformed into a boathouse.
It serves the same purpose, storing things.
So it's not, it's just for storing like kayaks or boards, or it doesn't, it's not the kind of
Life
boathouse that requires immediate access to the water.
Oh, it does, in that it does now.
Well, but you're gonna have to go down the stairs,
Right.
right, carrying whatever it is you're taking out of there. It just felt like a little putting the cart before the horse to have changed the name from a shed to a boathouse, because a boathouse is much more of a water-dependent kind of activity. But I like Eric's suggestion, because we did give up on our opposition to that deck last time, and here's an opportunity, and it's almost the same size as these stairs. So I think that's a great trade and a good mitigation prospect, so that's it.
Anyone else? Do you have anything? No? Okay. I very much agree with Eric and Janet. One question I have is, because I was wandering near that first deck that's at 237 and looking at what's on the hill, a lot of those stairs that you say you're removing are sort of rotten or
Right.
hard to see. Is there a reason that they have to be removed?
No, we just thought it was beneficial to remove them.
I mean, it's almost more of a disturbance to
No.
remove them, and you might also have erosion issues, because maybe they're doing something there. I mean, they're hard to find, to tell you the truth, because I had a hard time finding them. I was wandering all through that little mitigation, and I was all over the place. And I was, it was hard to find them. So I personally would rather see them when they're pretty rotten and they're in the ground, let them be. I mean, you could seed over, and they're just going to disappear, I think.
I think it'd be easy to work around them.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Just to speak to that, with removal, we were proposing erosion control blanketing.
Right.
Well, you gotta do that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just think might be work that's not necessary,
Absolutely.
in my opinion. So that's my comment. Anybody else? Bob?
Currently, there's a retaining wall right behind that shed,
Right.
retaining the
On
bank.
263, yes.
You gonna replace that, or?
We don't think we need to. We think we can build the new boathouse and have that wall be retained by the boathouse, but
By the
I will
foundation?
confirm that when we come back.
Yeah, I sort of thought that was going to be like the back part of the boathouse, so that because it's a little bit bigger, and from the picture, it looks like the new one goes back to meet almost that wall, was what I was thinking, so hopefully.
And the seed mix you're gonna use after you construct the stairs, you're gonna be able to seed under the stairs to provide some erosion control as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That's all I had, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, so, sounded to me like there aren't really issues. I think, we want you to seat under the stairs, that retaining wall will remain. You'll leave the rotten stairs that are barely visible. And of course, like they have temporary irrigation, they'll have temporary irrigation again. Eventually, all that temporary irrigation does have to be taken out. The only question is that deck and whether it can be removed.
Okay.
So-
I will propose that to the owners. In lieu of that, they might want to make the boathouse smaller or try to reduce the size of the elevated stairs to get that 240 number down. And the other option is to rebuild them both in kind. So I will run that all by them, and
Okay. So when would you like us to continue this to?
I don't know if we can get everything pulled together by the 14th. Is that your next meeting, the 14th?
Our next is July 23rd, and then we have August 13th.
Oh, the 23rd, we can get everything by the 23rd.
Okay, so you want to continue to the 23rd? Okay.
Okay, I move that we,
I just wanted to add, you know, when I look at this property, it really shows how beneficial it is to have a buffer between properties and the resource area, whatever it is, because if you go in behind that property, of course, when I was growing up, they used to call it, look at your healthy lawn. But I can guarantee you, just in the backyard, there's probably 400 pounds a year of herbicide and pesticide and nitrogen and fungicide put on that lawn to keep it that way, and to have a buffer between something like that and the resource area this is why we're here. Thanks.
Okay, so
Okay,
if
so
we
I-
could have a motion.
so I move that we continue 237 and 263 Woodland Way to July 23rd, 2025.
Second.
Okay, Bob,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
And I say aye. So we'll see you the 23rd.
CBA is expecting a comment letter, so I'm not sure what you have to say at this point.
That's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow, yeah.
Paul?
We can send it, Crystal's not here tomorrow, but we can send an email to Sarah indicating that the project can be approved under the performance standards. This is generally, it's a general statement.
Yeah.
That's usually what we say, David.
Okay. It's just, if we're gonna change the size of the
Yeah.
structures, which I can probably figure out before the meeting tomorrow, we might have to. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Paul, next.
Okay, next on the agenda is a certificate of compliance request. The address is 444 Old Harbor Road, AKA 450, Susan B. Morgan, map 16G, parcel 11-K4, DEP number SE10 1152. The project was reconstruct pier, seasonal ramp and float, and construct access stairs. Work under this order was never started, so we just need to close it.
Okay, if we could have a motion, please.
I move that we close the,
Approve.
approve the certificate of compliance for 444 Old Harbor Road.
Second.
Okay, Paul?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Janet? Aye. Bob?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
I'd mix it up.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one, please.
Just give me 1 second, I'm gonna get out of this. If Hunter can bring back the screen, there's probably, Attorney Litchfield probably wants to chime in on the next one. Okay, next on the agenda is 444 Old Harbor Road, Susan Morgan, map 16G, parcel X4, DEP number SE10 2247. The project was bulkhead replacement, an extension of the bulkhead project. This was, did y'all have a chance to go out and see it? There's 4 properties involved here. With Nourishment, this is that little house down on the water. The bulkhead was installed back in, the order was approved back in 2006. The application is complete. They did an inspection in 2011, 2025, and I went out and took a look at it. I think it's an old one, but it's in substantial compliance. there are complicated nourishment conditions, what I thought I would just do is include the ongoing conditions that are in the order without getting into these side agreements that the owners had about who was going to pay for what and where access was going to be. So I would recommend just approving this with ongoing conditions as listed in the order.
Okay, and this is, we're just approving 444 Old Harbor Road, because then there's, the next one is, I
Yes.
think, has all the neighbors.
Yes.
So that's really, truly the more complicated one,
That's
correct?
correct, right.
Okay.
I kind of jumped ahead, sorry.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure we all are understanding what we're voting on.
I'm just want to clarify, so.
Yeah.
This request, this is for SE 10 2611, and
This
then
is
there's a
for-
separate number 20,
2247 is what we're dealing with right now, which
2247
is
is
2247
Yeah.
is
That's
the
what I
one
said, right.
that's just Old Harbor,
just, and
444.
2611 is the multi-property.
Yes.
No, that's, 2611 is
It's
the
the multiple,
multi-property.
yeah.
2247 is this one that's just,
Is the actual bulkhead work
Okay.
that was
okay,
done.
just wanted to make sure I'm.
No, I,
Apologize
no,
for
I
the
appreciate
confusion.
it.
When this was done, it was a mess to just kind of
Okay.
unravel, so.
We do have a raised hand. John?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, John Bologna, Ty and Bond, formerly with Coastal Engineering. Yeah, this goes back 20-some years. This was an old coastal engineering project. As you mentioned, there are several order conditions on this project, and the property is under agreement, so the owners are trying just to kind of clean up the certificates and so forth. So the one that you just voted for was, the boat ramp and, I'm sorry, the pier and the
Right.
ramp and the float and so forth. So that never got built. Cleaning up, that was easy peasy. The next two are the.
We're
overhead,
just,
we do
right
with the
now, if I
bulkhead.
could stop you, we're just dealing with 2247 right now.
My apologies, I
Correct.
jumped ahead to the,
No, that's fine, but if you would like to address the 2247 SE number work, great, and then we can get to the next one, which has all the properties.
Yeah, appreciate that, madam. It's the linkage is because that's, essentially filed under the 2611 was kind of another amendment to the 2247, which is the one we're talking about right now. The reason I chimed in is because there's a request for a kind of ongoing condition for the beach nourishment. And Paul, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's another application filed by East Southeast under DEP SE 10 3335 that also has ongoing conditions. And so, I mean, just for the purpose of cleaning up the paperwork, if you will, to clean up as many of these old orders conditions, and essentially just have that one as an ongoing is sort of what I would suggest, just so that you can kind of clean this one up, get it off the book, so to speak, and then just have one clean order conditions or certificate of compliance with the continuation going on. So that would be my request.
what was the request?
Well, essentially just to close out this order conditions, issue a certificate without any ongoing conditions, and
Well-
lump all the link the ongoing conditions for the nourishment onto the other order conditions under SE 10 3335.
We're not closing.
We're not going
Now, let
to
me- Can I?
take ongoing conditions that should be for 444 Old Harbor Road for 2247 and put them into, they're going to have separate ongoing conditions. So that's just the way, we're not going to close out something without ongoing conditions. Because that gives up, they're able to do anything they want.
This is just the bulkhead
This is-
replacement and extension project.
Right,
Next
this is
one-
just the bulkhead replacement and extension. So there will be ongoing conditions on that, and if you have a problem with the ongoing conditions, speak now, but otherwise, we're not going to approve this without any ongoing conditions. I can assure you of that.
All right, I appreciate that. I just thought I'd make that point. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. So, yes, with the ongoing conditions as stated by Paul.
I
Please.
move that we approve the certificate of compliance for 444 Old Harbor Road with the ongoing conditions which are in the order and as stated by our agent.
Second.
Okay, Bob,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay, could we have the next
Sure.
call?
We'll get even more complicated. The next one,
Oh, do we have, no, oh, Bill Litchfield.
Oh.
Okay, Bill,
sorry, Bill.
sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a minor point. Several years ago, I represent the buyer of this property. Several years ago, the town changed the house numbers for most of the properties coming down the hill. And before the certificate of compliance is finalized, it might make sense to update those numbers. For instance, the house at the bottom, the subject property, is now numbered 450 Old Harbor Road. Can be addressed in the paperwork, but I simply wanted to
Already done
note
that.
that.
I did see on the first one where the work was never done, it did say AKA 450. So we probably could add that onto this second certificate of compliance and put AKA 450. Would that work?
Yeah, the title reference and the assessor's reference are going to be correct anyway, but just for going forward, it might, the AKA would certainly be fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, Paul.
Ready? Okay. Next on the agenda is certificate of compliance request for 440, 442, 444 Old Harbor Road, and 594 Shore Road. Susan Morgan is the applicant, map 16G, parcel X1, X2, X3, X4, and H1 DEP number SE10 2611. This was for a bulkhead extension and also did involve nourishment with ongoing conditions. Project was done in 2006. This is all the same property.
Right.
And this is the one that has the, sort of the side agreements about the nourishment. And all I'd like to do is just add one condition, in addition to those that are in the orders, that the agent and the Coastal Resiliency Director, which is now Ted's position, that's what they're calling it, that Catherine has, be contacted and go on site to make sure that the sand is compatible and that there are any conditions that need to be sort of dealt with in terms of protocols, construction protocols, things like that. So prior to the nourishment, that would make sense for us to have some role in that. Given this is a very old project, if you went out there and saw it, it's going to probably be substantial nourishment over the years being done out there. So, and there's marsh next to it.
Okay, I agree. I think that condition needs to be added as well. Anybody comments? Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, wasn't one of the agreements also that the property south was also supposed to be nourished in case it was caused scarping?
When you say south, you're talking about the one way up on the hill, or?
Well, they have a little bit of the property that's south of the
Yep.
440. I mean, I think that
Yeah.
they made a deal where they were gonna also make sure they nourished any scarping that happened on
They-
the southern property.
They did. And Eric, the problem with this one is that one of those agreements says when the ownership changes, all of the agreements that we previously made are null and void.
Oh, okay.
So I thought the best thing to do is just list the ongoing conditions that are in the order that the commission issued at that time. They can work out whatever nourishment issues they want, the property rights, all of that, we don't get into. But I believe there will be nourishment done on that property, Eric. So I think you're, good question, I think that'll be satisfied. And again, this was very, very convoluted to pull this whole thing together and understand what was done with it back in 2006.
That's when I was on.
Yep.
Anything else?
So I'd recommend approval. I don't know if Mr. Litchfield's still on, if he has anything to say.
He's on, but I don't see that he's raised his hand.
Okay.
No, but I'll be happy to if I could, Madam Chairman.
Of course.
Thank you. Just for the commission's reference, there is a note in this order of conditions which already references 2247. It says that nourishment shall be under this order shall be completed in accordance, I'm paraphrasing, in accordance with the requirements under 2247. So there's already sort of a cross-reference in the 2000, whatever year it was, to the prior order from 2006.
Okay, great, thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay.
I move that we approve the certificate of compliance for 440, also known as 450, 442, 444 Old Harbor Road, and 594 Shore Road with the ongoing conditions as noted by the conservation agent.
Second.
Bob?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay, then next.
Next on the agenda is the last certificate of compliance request for 97 Tilipy Run. Owner is TR 97 Nominee Trust, map 14A3, parcel 2-B, DEP number SC 103690, Shoreline Protection and Restoration Project. This is a request for partial COC for the revetment,
And it's just the revetment,
just the
correct?
revetment.
Hi, Dan.
Dan Shermickley with Time Bond, representing 97 Tilby again. Just to reiterate that we are here just specifically to talk about the revetment and conditions specific to the revetment. Nothing with landscaping, nothing with upland, and nothing with the monitoring.
Okay.
And with that, I again have just a very brief presentation to give. I'm going to request to screen share again. And just give me one moment. All right. There we go.
Okay.
All right.
We can
Can
see
everyone
it.
see that?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so again, for 97 Tilby Run here. Again, quick background here. Original order permitted September 2024 on this. Again, project part of the larger shoreline protection job, so 97, 75, 59. The project activities related to the revetment and construction of the revetment at 97 are substantially complete. And we are here today to request a partial COC just for the revetment, or the construction of the revetment, I should say, and the underwater stone as well. So the work that was permitted on the job, as a refresher here, so we have construction of the armor stone revetment on the coastal bank. So there was a little bit of filling and regrading of the embankment, geotextile, underlayer stone, and armor stone. The revetment was constructed with a crest elevation of +16 along the eastern facing portion of the site, and it slopes off to about +8 at the southern end. It was installation of the dumped riprap, continuing underwater down to about elevation -40 to where the bottom of that large scour hole is at the site. Sand backfill inshore of the revetment to fill that area, and then installation of the plantings on the site. So description of the completed work. So the armor stone revetment has been completed. The installation of the underwater dump drip wrap with the geotextile has been completed.
Where's your sister?
With the armor stone, it's the geotextile, the bedding stone, and the 2 layers of armor stone have been installed. Stabilization of the upland, I will say, is in progress. There has been a good amount of the planting done today, but there is still some planting work that remains to be completed out on site, especially with the hot weather. That's kind of slowed down the planting a little bit in that regard. There was the patio that was installed. That was the subject of a previous field change. That is not part of this partial COC. So just so you are aware of that. And then the sand nourishment that was required by the permits has also been installed. And I'm sure you saw that out on site when you did your site walk. So work yet to be completed is finishing the site restoration, including the plantings. Restoration of the construction access is ongoing on the property at 75. I believe they're working on plantings over there right now. And then all of the annual monitoring that's required still remains to be completed. So as part of the construction, there were a few relatively minor deviations from exactly what was on the drawings. So the upper portion of the revetment is a little bit flatter than what was on the plans. The original project was a 1.5 to 1 slope. The upper portion, it's about a 2.2 on 1. Roughly, it varies a little bit depending where you are on site. Some parts are on 2, some might be a little bit less, like a 2.3. The lower portion of the slope, and when I say upper and lower, that transition points around elevation +8 was a little bit steeper than what was on the plan, so it's about a 1.3 horizontal to 1 vertical. There was some underlayer stone used in between the 2 layers of armor stone in order to try to facilitate construction of the revetment a little better. The contractor was having a lot of issues with highly irregular stones, and the stones were actually tending to run a little bit larger than they were expecting. So in order to get a revetment that even resembled somewhat of a uniform slope, they used some underlayer stone in between to provide, I'll say, a little bit of a bedding layer, just to smooth out some of the really big deviations between the stones. The dumped riprap on the plans was supposed to end at about +3, roughly. It was continued up somewhat to +7 to kind of smooth that transition smooth the transition of the slope as it heads up. As it was on the plans, there was kind of a shelf that was there. It wasn't really the best detail for kind of providing a smooth transition. So that just smoothed out the slope a little bit there. Gaps that were larger than 6 inches, there was some chinking stone used in those. Again, the owner had some real concerns about safety and just people walking on it, and the fact that there were holes that you could put your whole leg into. These stones were massive out there, so stuff that was really big enough to fit a whole foot or a whole leg in, that stuff was chinked up. And then the underwater stone, when we did the survey afterwards, it came out, I'll say, a little bit thicker than was what on the plan. We had 3-foot minimum on the plan. It generally ran about 4 to 5 feet in the final condition. There's some variability in that. Obviously, placing stone underwater is not an exact science, especially with the changing grades of this site. So it generally ran a little bit thicker than what was on the plans. And just some pictures from the site here. So this is from back in April. You can see this is the dumped stone underwater, kind of continued up to provide kind of a, I'll say, a more smooth transition on the revetment from the water heading up. The sand nourishment installed up here. These are the armor stones. Just another view. Similarly here, you can see the stone. You can see the, sorry, not the stone, the sand nourishment a little bit better in this. And then these are just a couple pictures from construction here. So you can see you have your 2 layers of armor stone, your bedding stone. This is some of that bedding stone that was used in between the layers to smooth out some of these really irregular stones that were in here. And then you got your geotextile. It's a little tough to see in there, but it's down there. And just another picture of during construction here. So this is the bedding stone, your first layer of armor stone, and then the second one is in the process of being put on top of this as well. So we have our record drawing of what was built out there, ready to be submitted. So you can see these are the different buffer zones.
Hello? How
Um,
are you, sir?
Bill, you're
I
on,
kept my mouth
Bill,
shut.
you need to mute, thanks. Thank you. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yep. And as we're, so this is the as-built survey, what was out there. So you have the bathymetry was done back in late December, early January. Yeah, December 13th, the bathymetry was done. The topo was done a little bit later than that in February and tied together for an as-built survey here. These are the limits of the underwater stone. You can see we covered just the steep part of the slope here, which is what was on the approved plan. And so, yeah, so request for partial COC. So we, in our application, we provided a comprehensive table of exactly what conditions we are requesting be closed out and which ones will remain open. It's not in this presentation because there was a lot. I mean, if you looked at it, there was an extensive list there, but it's part of the application. We were very specific about what's being closed and what's remaining open. And again, we're just here to talk about the revetment, not the upland, not the patio, not the monitoring, just construction of the revetment. And the owner is committed to moving forward with the conditions. Like I said, that record plan's already done. We have plans in place for the ongoing monitoring that's required for Chatham and for a bunch of other regulatory agencies as well at this point. And I think that's it. So with that, I will open it up to discussion and questions from the commission.
Thank you. I do have a letter that Ted Keon, who was the Director of Coastal Resources, sent before he retired when he reviewed the revetment, knowing that you were coming for a COC. So I will read that. I have reviewed the originally approved plans for reconstruction of the revetment at 97 Tulipy Run as compared to the final as-built revetment. I also visited the site on several occasions during construction to observe progress of the project. I offer the following comments for consideration. The site conditions for reconstruction of this revetment were extremely difficult due to several factors, including high-velocity tidal currents, open ocean wave exposure, loss of stable upland and tow foundation, and difficult construction access to the site. The project necessitated an unusual approach to stabilize the seafloor, seaward of the tow stone, and then construct a significant revetment to protect the remaining upland and private residents. As has been identified, the finished revetment was not built in the specific manner as the original plan. The stone face is not as rough-faced as originally designed and was built with a slightly shallower slope. The project required large amounts of heavy tonnage armor stone, which resulted in the use of blasted ledge rock from off-Cape as opposed to the more rounded armor stone more commonly used in this region. This type of stone is not as amenable to true rough-faced orientation and required some modifications to the stone placement. Despite the deviations from the original design plans, the completed revetment appears sound in essentially the same footprint, and the engineer has stated it will function as originally designed. The revetment should not have additional impacts to the wetland resources originally conditioned to be protected. Therefore, I do not see a material reason why the Conservation Commission could not issue a partial certificate of compliance for the revetment as constructed. However, this recommendation is based on the unique site conditions and constraints associated with this specific project and should not be interpreted as establishing a precedent for future deviations from approved plans. So that was Ted's take on it. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Janet?
Yeah, so Dan, while I appreciate the effort it took to go through the order of conditions, one by one by one by one, and create this table, I think I have a problem with the conditions that are listed as subject to this COC, going somewhat beyond just the construction of the revetment. So, like, I haven't gone through them actually one by one by one by one, but the ones I noticed were, you know, the special condition 2, taking care to ensure there's no unpermitted alteration of the NDZ, that stays for 3 years. A lot of the requirements, the general requirements, are enforced for the full 3-year term of the order, which may be extended if necessary. So I don't know how to do it other than to, I don't think we should attach this to a certificate, for fear that it will discharge requirements that shouldn't yet be discharged. That said, I mean, maybe we just do it in terms of, you know, the conditions contained in sections B, C, and D that pertain to the construction of the revetment, and just let the rest of the order stay until we have ready for a complete certificate. Does that make sense? It just feels like it goes beyond.
I think
Yeah.
it does. If you look under D, installation of rock revetment, these are all, you know, very appropriate ongoing conditions that are related to the revetment only. So those should stay.
Right, some of those are going to be ongoing, right?
But the table, I agree. So if you're issuing a partial foot just for the wall, for the revetment, I think that the ongoing conditions that were listed, Dan, in the installation of the rock revetment are appropriate. I think you included most of those. 3, 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, and then the others are not really related to it, so, as Janet said, so I think
Right,
we can live with the ones that are tied to the revetment.
right.
And those are the only ones that
Yeah.
we will agree to at this point.
Which you would have gotten if you came back later and asked for the revetment.
Exactly.
Thing.
So,
Yeah, can I address that to the commission? This is Brian E. Angus again for Time Bond. The table was almost a necessary exercise for us to go through, frankly. I don't think we were expecting at all that it would be attached to a certificate of compliance or anything. And, you know, the comment in a comment saying condition noted, that's us indicating we know it's not complete and will be ongoing. So, however, just to say, yeah, we weren't expecting the table to be part of the approval.
okay, thank you. And we do need to have a monitoring report for this revetment every year. I mean, that is going to be, because this is an unusual situation, and it was done in an unusual manner because of the situation, and so we're going to want to know that how it's doing, because this was something that's never been done before, you know, building out the bottom of the ocean. One comment I'll have is, when I was there,
Just-
looking for the
sorry.
field change, there are holes at the top coming. I mean, there's sand that has, I guess, gone down in, and I'm just wondering if you all have looked at it recently, because it was right where the rocks are, and I was thinking, gosh, it already, the sand is disappearing. So I think you need to monitor it more often, maybe. And the statement that people are walking on it, I'm not
scary.
exactly thrilled about. Nobody should be walking near the revetment, to tell you the truth. I just don't want anything to compromise this revetment. I don't think any of us want to revisit this anytime in the near future. So I'm sure you don't, we don't. I think everybody would like to see this work as well as possible. Just as an aside.
Yeah, I guess just to, address some of those. So the applicant's going to provide monitoring for, I believe it's 4 years as required by the permits. Like the town will get those. That is already in the works with the applicant.
Right.
With regards to public access and walking, I mean, I don't have to tell you guys this, but there's public access rights to that shoreline. People do, it sounds, I don't know if it sounds
I'm
crazy
talking
or
about
not,
the
but people
top
do
of the
access.
revetment. The top, that's not public access. It's private property.
It shouldn't be, but I would agree with you, but that does not stop people from walking over there. And then with regards to the sand, the sand is going to work its way down into the
Right.
revetment. That's doing what it's supposed to do.
Exactly,
so-
but I'm saying you might want to go look and add more
Yep,
already.
I've been out there probably at least once a month to once every 2 weeks
Okay.
for the last few months. It's working its way down there. That's okay. There's spaces between those rocks that are, inches wide.
Right.
And when you get the combination of rain and wind, a little bit of wave action, it finds its way down there. It's doing what it's supposed to do.
Yes, I know. I'm just saying it might need some nourishment now, not wait, I was there yesterday. All right, so I was surprised to see these holes forming. And as far as people walking on it, first of all, you have trees and everything. It's not an easy spot to walk on, and it would be somebody coming from 75, and I don't think they're going to want people walking on their revetment. I mean, these are not the base of the revetment. These are the top, and that's their property. It's so hopefully nobody will be, and that will be part of the ongoing conditions, I would say. We need to say people should not be walking on revetments.
Yeah, put a no trespassing sign.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever you have to do, I think we shouldn't have people
yeah.
walking on them.
I have a
But no,
curious
it's actually
question.
people from the nature preserve to the south. Like that's the main public access point.
Okay.
Obviously, he abuts that. And people walk over. They go over to the beach. They come over on the revetment. They're around.
Okay,
I was just curious, how would you fill the holes? By a wheelbarrow?
I don't know.
I mean,
I guess
how would you, any sinks, wheelbarrow it
the-
down, your access is gone?
They will. Yeah, it'll probably have to be some sort of situation like that. But let's see. Like I've already said, the revetment's doing what it's supposed to do. As part of
Right.
our annual monitoring, we monitor the nourishment. If it needs more, we'll revisit
Okay.
that at that point. We
Okay.
have permanent conditions that require that. But it's
All right.
going to go there. It's going to disappear over time. That's
Oh, I
doing
get
what it's
that.
supposed to do.
No, I
Yep.
understand that fully, but I just was kind of giving you an FYI that it's happening.
Yep, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I just had a curious question also. Has there been any signs of scarping on the west side? Because we had a pretty good storm, made a new cut. I was just curious, how's it been holding out? Anybody been looking, resource people, or
Yep.
how's the scarping on the west side? Anything so far?
So we've been monitoring the area over there. The revetment's been performing well to date. It collects a lot of debris over there. It seems to, there's kind of an eddy that forms over there and kind of seems to collect a lot of debris. But generally speaking, it's been performing well. There's been some erosion, I think, on that end a little bit. That Mother Nature seems to hate that whole area down there for some reason. But to date, we're performing well so far, and we'll continue to monitor that as required by our permits and keep an eye on it. And if an issue arises in the future, we'll address that depending on what happens.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
There's also some shoaling going on with that little landform out in the front. It's actually starting to migrate, which is good.
Good, excellent.
Okay, then I think we can have a motion to approve a partial for the revetment only.
I move that we approve the certificate of compliance for 97 Tulipy Run, partial certificate of compliance for the revetment only.
Second,
Okay, Paul?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Eric?
aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And I say aye. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Have a great
Okay,
evening.
Paul, the next thing.
Okay, next on the agenda is the update for 22 Captain Sears Road, Eastwood Companies. Is the applicant, map 11C, parcel H17, DEP number SE10, 3354, demolition of an existing dwelling and reconstruction of a new dwelling, pool, and patio. And I think,
I'm the one who had asked for this update as a result of being on site for the construction project next door. I wanted to, didn't want, even though we're allowed to go there, I felt uncomfortable going on to that property to check out. I was curious because the last we had heard, the mitigation planting was scheduled to happen in 2024. It had not yet happened, so I wanted to know whether that was done and complete, and Blue Flax sent in a series of photographs and a report indicating about the completion of all of that, so that's appreciated. And I did take Teresa's point that there are white poplars on the Captain Sears property that are abutting where they're coming out on the property next door. Similarly, there's poplars on the other side of that property, and so it's all very TBD about what's going to happen. We haven't approved the removal of those trees yet. Just keeping an eye on the fact that they're spread across all three properties at this point. So something to keep an eye on if they threaten the mitigation that is now underway and looks very good, by the way. So
Yep.
thanks to Blue Flax for sending all that in.
Yes, that was very helpful, and I know Teresa's away and can't be here, so I appreciate that update. All right, Paul, next thing.
next on the agenda is a discussion regarding
You need your,
next on the agenda is discussion coastal resiliency article briefing.
Okay, I'm trying to.
Go ahead, Janet.
Well, I want to share my screen, but it's only letting me, hang on a second. I don't want that window, I want. Why is this such a pain? 1 second. I don't want to share this window. I don't. Okay, now you're making
yeah,
me
because then you
stop
can't
sharing.
see.
I only want to share the window that I've got open. All right, hold on a second. So this is just an introduction to everybody about a project that, let's see if this one works. Yeah, this. Has been green-lighted by the town to go forward for this, for the next about year, I would say. And if it lets me share, I don't know why it's only giving me that one. Share this window. That is not the window I want. I want to share this window. What a pain. Well, I had put together some slides so you don't have to just listen to me drone on about it and can see what I'm saying. But alas, not going to happen that way. So anyway, I'll just go on about it. So this is a project that's called the Coastal Resilience Project. And it's being driven by a number of things that have been happening in the last couple of years that affect Chatham's coastline. And so where it has pointed us is that we need to, the town, and specifically the Conservation Commission, needs to strengthen some of the protections that we have in place for coastal resources and in particular, the coastal floodplain. So, as you know, and it's no surprise to any of us sitting here, that there is a reality of what's been happening on the coast, forget it, to the coastal floodplain in the last several years. Let me cancel that. God almighty. No, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to exit. How's that? I'm going to exit. No, I have this, here's the slide, share this window. That's the one.
You got it.
Oh, thank God.
Got it.
Thank God, right. So, yeah, so the reality that we all know is that with the increase in atmospheric temperature and in ocean temperature, we're subject to all of these different forces that are not only not going anywhere, but they are accelerating. So for example, we know that the sea level rise has been about a foot in the last century. Most of that has happened in the last 25 years. So the rate of that sea level rise is accelerating and is going to continue to accelerate no matter what, because these impacts are baked into the existing conditions in both the atmosphere and the oceans. So that extra heat, we know, is also driving the frequency and intensity of the storms hitting the coast. I mean, we just spent this time talking about some of the results of that. And so, it's presenting these risks of ongoing, continuing erosion and continuing coastal flooding. And so you might say, but wait, we already regulate the coastal floodplain as land subject to coastal storm flowage. True enough, we do. But those protections have failed to keep pace with the changes that we're seeing. So, for example, land subject to coastal storm flowage, another way of saying the coastal floodplain, which to me is a lot easier to say and a lot more obvious. It's defined, the limits of that are defined by the FEMA floodplain maps. The FEMA floodplain maps are only historic. They map the extent to flooding that has happened in the past, and so they don't take into account what has been predicted and what has been determined to be pretty likely to come in the future. So it's always a game of catch-up when you're using the FEMA maps. Similarly, so since 2014, you may have noticed that unlike every other resource area, the coastal floodplain has no buffer zone. It was removed by town meeting in 2014 for a bunch of reasons I'm not going to go into. But so we don't have the ability to protect that by protecting the area surrounding it. The state has performance standards for every resource area except this one. And there are no regulations or performance standards for the coastal floodplain. There haven't been. That's about to change. And our own standards are a little bit on the vague side. We talk about floodwaters being diverted. We talk about the ability of the land to absorb floodwater. But, we are stymied every time somebody wants to put hardscape, swimming pool, whatever in this area where, it does not belong. So the aim of this project is to strengthen the legal protections that are currently in place. The need to do this has been recognized as a priority at the state level. DEP has recognized it as a priority and is in the process right now of drafting new performance standards. The Cape Cod Commission issued a climate action plan a couple of years ago, recognizing it as a priority need. It's identified in the Pleasant Bay Alliance 2024 Climate Adaptation Action Plan. And the town and the local Climate Action Network have also identified it as a priority need. So the good news is some of this stuff has already been put into place. Nothing needs to be built from scratch here. So the new DEP regulations and performance standards that are in draft for land subject to coastal storm flowage go pretty far toward providing some decent protections. And when that happens, and sources keep telling me it's any day now, although we've heard any day now for a long time, our regulations will have to be updated in any case to align with the state standards. At the same time, the Cape Cod Commission developed a model coastal resilience bylaw and set of regulations to bring all towns on the Cape up to current standards. And so I've downloaded those. It's in our Teams folder. I'll give you all the link to it if you want to look at. Karen and I talked about, we didn't want to give you that model coastal bylaw before you start looking at this because it's a little overwhelming. And it's not at all clear that we need to adopt the whole thing because it actually has a lot of technical detail in it, such as performance standards that should be in regulation, not in a bylaw. So we'll be looking at that. So what this is going to do, what the project is aiming to do, is to use the model, bylaw and regulations, and DEP's upcoming regulations, and create two categories of protections. One are things that have to go into an article, a revision to the bylaw, and would have to go to town meeting for approval, and the other would go into regulations that we would issue once the town meeting has authorized the commission to go forward with this. So that's what the project is. So if you want to know what the Cape Cod Commission model coastal bylaw does that's different, it creates what's called a coastal resilient zone, which encompasses the current land subject by FEMA maps, but it extends that protected area to areas that have been demonstrated by what's called the best available model that's been developed that are likely to be flooded between now and 2050, over the next 25 years. And so that expanded protection area pulls in land that is not currently within land subject. That best available model, so the state has adopted what's called the Massachusetts Coast Flood Risk Model. That was developed by the Office of Coastal Zone Management, working with the Department of Transportation and the Woods Hole Group to develop this coastal flood risk model, which is not like most. It doesn't anticipate that sea level rise is even, because it's not. It's very driven by, especially when you're talking about storm, it's driven by storm surge, it's driven by land topography, it's driven by fetch, it's driven by flood pathways. All of those things are brought into this model to predict where the flooding is likely to happen. And we're going to be having a community event in September when some of the people from Woods Hole Group who were involved in developing this model will come, and they'll bring maps that will illustrate the difference between what is now currently protected under land subject to coastal storm flowage and what their model is predicting is beyond that and is likely to be flooded. We've put together a small work group to do this work. So Greg Berman is the one who greenlighted this project, and he'll be the leader of the project. Catherine Ricks will be a part of the work team in her capacity as Director of Coastal, I should say, Resilience. Karen and I will represent the Conservation Commission, and Dee Dee Holt will be representing the Energy and Climate Action Committee. Also useful to have her, she's a former member, in fact, chair of the Conservation Commission and a member of the Planning Board before, too. So, because there'll be some interplay with all of those different bodies. So we'll be working on this summer, looking at the model and trying to do that process of pulling out what needs to be in a bylaw and what can be in a regulation so that we're ready by the fall to begin bringing these drafts. We'll be coming here in the fall to bring the draft, and we'll go to, the Energy and Climate Committee, we'll go to the Planning Board, we'll go to the Select Board, and we'll be taking comment and input from all of them. We'll also begin a pretty robust community engagement and education effort, because we've all learned that town meeting ain't predictable. And the more you can do ahead of time to make people understand that these are common sense responses to reducing and managing our risk, the better, because you can reasonably anticipate some concern, some pushback, even some objections to this. So we're going to be very proactive about reaching people in the community to make sure that they really understand why this is being done and it doesn't get subject to another, conscom land grab kind of silliness. So we have a schedule mapped out. We are aiming for town meeting next spring. Because the Pleasant Bay Alliance has identified it as a priority, and because Chatham's one of the 4 towns in that alliance, all 4 towns are going to be pursuing this project. Yeah, but not necessarily, we're going to go first. And the other 3 towns, although Orleans is thinking about going in the spring of '26 as well, but Brewster and Harwich won't go until 2027. The Alliance has applied for funding from the state, expecting a decision like this week. And if that happens, there'll be funding to bring the Cape Cod Commission in and pay them to prepare a lot of the graphics and a lot of the mapping things that can be done, and to work through this process of analyzing the model that they developed and how we can best parse it into what absolutely positively has to be in a bylaw and what can go in a regulation. So that's the project. We're going to try to create to provide legal protection for this coastal resilient zone, to provide, better, more robust, more forward-looking protections. And so the Conservation Commission will be the entity taking it to town meeting. And when we get an approval from town meeting, we will then pivot to getting the performance standards ready to be issued next summer. So that's the quite ambitious schedule, but we think it can be done. We've got a really great team of people who are willing to do this, so we're lucky. That's why we're going, because we've got everybody in place, we've got everything ready. There's, as Greg says, there's no reason to wait another year.
Love it. I have one quick question for you.
Sure.
When you were talking about the collaboration and the getting the town involved and all that, will you engage the summer residence
Yes.
committee? Good.
Yes, yes. We already have a team of people set to attend that and introduce the topic to them. That's probably going to be, maybe not me, because I'll be away, lucky. Questions?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an ambitious project. You'll definitely have pushback, I think, because there's going to be people that claim you're going on predictions of what could happen.
Yep. That's a reasonable response from people,
Yeah.
too. I get that.
So, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some pushback on it.
Yep. I expect it. I think that that's part of what the Cape Cod Commission will be helping with. I watched one town inadvisedly jump the gun and try to, where the conservation agent appeared before the select board to propose this, and it went very, very badly. The preparation hadn't been done, and one of the select board members said, but I've got a shed in what you're probably going to call a flood area, so you're telling me, and so she, didn't have an answer, and it didn't go well, and she withdrew it. So, lessons were learned. So, hopefully we don't suffer that same fate. So that's it. And so we're going to be briefing you like every month. We'll deliver an update to you. We'll have a folder in the Teams folder where we'll put materials so you can look through them and read through them. But you won't be called on to do anything until we get to a vote next spring, and then voting on a proposed bylaw, and then voting on regulations next summer.
But that, being proactive and educating the public ahead of time and selling them basically on this is crucial.
Crucial. And we've seen it too many times where things fail, and it's almost always for that reason. That's how we lost the buffer zone to the coastal floodplain in the first place. Because somebody stood up at town meeting and made some argument, everybody went, oh, and they were caught without a response.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Exciting.
And as Janet said, we thought probably once a month there would be an update, and if there's nothing to update, that's what the update will be, is that nothing new to present to you guys. But this is something that has to come from conservation. It's going to be under our jurisdiction, so that's why Janet wanted to present it to us at this point.
Yeah.
Good job.
Don't want to surprise everybody going, we're doing what?
Yeah, no.
I don't want to have
And I don't
death
want it-
threats.
Well, I didn't want anybody,
We're going to
how,
be really careful.
you know how word travels. I didn't want it coming back to us, having somebody say, oh, I hear this is going on, and our commission not know anything about it. So that's why we've been briefed at this point, but there's not a lot to report yet. So, having said that, our next agenda, please. Okay,
Bob's the new chair?
yeah.
Microphone wasn't on.
I'm sorry there, back there in the
Yeah, she's-
knock. Next on the agenda is reorganization of the commission.
Okay, thank you. So, do we have any motions?
I have a motion. So, after a year of, not suffering, but enjoying the leadership that Karen has exhibited, and to wit, we haven't had a 3-hour hearing I don't think in the entire year. And her ability to keep calm and keep focused and keep the cats herded is really, really admirable. And so if she's willing, I am honored to nominate Karen to serve another year as the chair.
Oh, good.
Does that call for a second?
Somebody needs.
Yeah,
Second,
Second.
double
All right,
second.
We need a vote.
All right, Paul,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
Karen, you're recused. Eric,
Aye.
Bob,
Definitely aye.
and I'm aye, so we are unanimous.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Congratulations, Madam Chair.
Thank
Another
you.
year. Thank you, thank you,
Thank
thank you for
you
your willingness
for-
to do this. It's
Thank you for your faith
appreciate
in
it.
my ability.
That's
Oh,
great.
no.
We're cruising along.
Yep, we are. And another motion?
I have a motion. Before I get to the motion, I need to second the emotion about Karen. She is a phenomenal leader, and the amount of time and energy she has put into this endeavor is just amazing. In that vein, there's another individual who is willing to step up and fill the role of the vice chair, which I am not filling with the fervor and time commitment and sight line to becoming chair because of other commitments that I can do. I am not going anywhere. I'm going to stay on the commission, and I would like to nominate the fabulous Paul Johnson to become vice chair of the commission. Eric, you can calm down.
I will second that.
All right. Paul? You can recuse.
Recruits.
Janet?
Aye.
Elise?
Did
Aye.
you say recluse or recuse? Oh,
Eric?
aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And I say aye. And before we have one last motion, I would very much like to thank Elise for the past year and all of the work she has done and, you know, her invaluable opinions on things and ability to help me all along the way. So it's been a huge help, and I thank you very much, and I'm very glad you aren't leaving.
I'm not
and
going
are
anywhere.
Still with us. You
And you-
know, everybody knows this was a life sentence, right?
You tap me for what you need until my
No.
blood is gone.
So, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And we now need another motion.
Do I do the motion?
Yeah, you're still.
Okay. Next time. I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All right. Bob?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Janet? Aye. Elise?
Aye.
And I say aye. We're out. Thank you.